It is week 2, time to preview the next opponent coming up for the Badgers, and we have a guest expert on to break down Middle Tennessee. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in and being part of this community. Today's episode, we are talking Middle Tennessee offense, defense, players to watch out for, week 2 preview. And we have Jake Bolden joining this show over at Blue Raider Pod to help break down his team. Jake, man, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Let's start here. Week 1 in the books. Obviously not the best week 1 ever for Middle Tennessee. What happened in the game against Austin Peay?
Well, it's been more of a matter of what didn't happen in the game against Austin Peay. Obviously, I think for the most part, anyone that watches the national football landscape, this one was a tough one for Blue Raider fans. Going into second year under head coach Derek Mason, who spent a lot of years at Vanderbilt, coming from a defensive coordinator job at Oklahoma State, prior to that Auburn. So a lot of excitement replacing a long-tenured head coach. We were kind of sold last year that it was a rebuild of sorts. This year, we felt like we had a lot of continuity in some key areas. All that to say, we had a lot of expectations, and it all just fell flat. And you asked what happened. Like I said, it wasn't what happened, it's what didn't happen. There was just no consistency. It seemed like the offense was out of sorts. They couldn't get any rhythm. Totaled 8 3-and-outs in that matchup against an FCS team that had 70 new players. And maybe at the end of the day, Austin Peay is better than we thought on paper, but losing by nearly 3 touchdowns to a team that finished near the back end of the UAC last year is less than stellar, to say the least.
What about that game do you pull out and say, because I used to coach a little basketball, and we would always say you're never as good as the film shows and you're never quite as bad on your worst days. What about week 1 do you pull out and say, but these were some bright spots for us?
As far as bright spots go, I do think, all things considered, the defense played well, or better than maybe we had anticipated. They did have the task of having to contain Chris Parson, the quarterback at Austin Peay, which, again, in the national football landscape, he committed to Florida State out of high school, ended up going to Mississippi State. Things, didn't work out there with Coach Leach, obviously, and so he found a new home in Clarksville at Austin Peay. An SEC caliber quarterback, we saw every bit of it, very elusive. So mobile quarterbacks is something that gave them fits, but all things considered, I thought the run defense was good. We've had our concerns of what the defensive front would look like this year because it does lack depth, but those guys did shine pretty well. And then also the offensive line. That was the area that Coach Mason put a lot of emphasis on this season as far as replenishing, because that's an entirely rebuilt offensive line, only returning 1 starter. And so having all those guys actually look the part as far as a strong offensive line kept Vadiato upright. He's still running a little bit more than I would like for him to be running around as a quarterback, but I still think collectively the trenches did surprise me.
Okay. What was the fan reaction to week 1, just kind of in general for you guys?
I think the fan reaction had very little to do with the outcome. I mean, although losing to that game definitely is going to be a bad, sour reaction, but the landscape here in Murfreesboro is very upset with the back office side of things, the school administration, the president in particular, the athletic director. As I alluded to earlier, we let go of Rick Stockstill, 20-year head coach here, after 0 solo conference championships over 20 years. They finally let him go. And then you look at Derek Mason. We've been sold this year would be a lot better, laying a goose egg against an in-state rival like Austin Peay, when they haven't beaten the Blue Raiders in almost 40 years, and you lose by 3 touchdowns in this day and age with NIL and all this. So there's a lot of frustration that I personally directed at the coaching staff. I don't think you get that. You maybe get that excuse in year 1, but year 2, when we were told that this roster is better, and I would admit this roster is better. However, laying an egg like that is just inexcusable. But a lot of the fan base here is saying this is a culmination of what's been going on for the last 20 years.
That's a great answer. Let's shift into the offensive side for Middle Tennessee. Veteran quarterback has thrown for more than 7,500 yards. Nicholas Vadiato, which I believe I pronounced that mostly correctly.
You got it.
Nailed it. Well, yeah, talk to us about Nicholas Vadiato. Again, veteran guy, threw for 3,000 plus yards the last 2 years. What kind of quarterback are the Badgers facing this weekend?
Well, you're going to be facing one of the few guys in G5 and really all of college football that has stayed at his school his entire tenure. That is something that is very rare in and of itself. And also, as you already listed the stats, he's thrown for over 3,000 yards in consecutive seasons. Again, to think that he wasn't picked off, especially through the coaching change, is the biggest surprise. But this is a guy that early in his career was the dual threat quarterback. He was very elusive. He's a little bit reckless when it comes to running the football, not in the fumbling aspect, but the fact that he's not scared to take a hit. He's a guy that will dive on 1st and 10 to get that 10th yard to turn the chains over once more. Although the smart play now is to just take the dive and we'll get him on 2nd and 1. But he's gotten a lot smarter in that aspect. He's definitely more of a pocket presence guy. He's going to make the passes. The one thing that scares me a lot going back to week 1 in the history books, we have a lot of good long tenured quarterbacks with a lot of records being held. And Vadiato is going to be one of those guys. And one of the records that he actually currently holds, and it is now in limbo after week 1, is completion percentage. He completes over 60% of his passes his entire career, which again, that's one of those longevity stats that does stand out on paper. But this last week against Austin Peay, it was the lowest of his entire career as a starter. And it wasn't like a couple percentage. It was just over 40%. So that concerns me. And I know we'll get more into the X's and O's here a little bit, but a guy that we should be leaning on and someone we thought no matter how bad the offensive line was, like it was last year, he's a guy that's still going to throw for 3,000 yards. He's still going to throw double-digit touchdowns. He's a guy that can still lead this offense. But that week 1, putting up 14 points, it is a reason to be concerned.
Let's talk a little of the X and O's, because what did Austin Peay do? Was it something they did defensively, or was it the offense just not clicking to generate that type of performance from Vadiato?
For me personally, it looked like there was, when you look at our offense, and we'll probably see a taste of it this Saturday, is it just feels like there's not an identity that OC Bodie Reader wants to run. We talk all the time about wanting to establish the run. We have a very talented backfield, and for 2 straight years, we've had a really strong running back room in terms of Conference USA, but we don't really utilize them that much. You can make the excuse of the offensive line, but I'm going to answer your question directly, I'm going to call it on the offensive play calling. Again, you have one of the best quarterbacks in Conference USA. You have a top-tier running back room. We have plenty of weapons, albeit we didn't have a lot of yardage in the air this last week, but we have plenty of guys that can catch the ball that I feel confident that come from P4s. So I think all the playmakers are there. It's just that it seems like the play calling, there was no identity. I don't know what we're trying to do. If we're trying to run an air raid, if we're trying to spread the teams, if we're trying to spread the defense horizontally, I don't know. And that's where it's hard for a team to really get in rhythm.
Talk to me about some of the weapons around him. You mentioned the running back room, some of the receivers on the outside. Cox had 2 touchdown receptions in that game last week. Who do the Badger fans need to be aware of that's going to surround Vadiato here?
Yeah, Najee Cox is a junior college transfer from Fresno City, California, a guy that was highly touted as a vertical threat for this team. He was a track past, and so that's kind of his thing, but he showed that he can run routes and he can get horizontal. That was something that really impressed us. He had great hands. He was the leading receiver, 6 receptions, 50 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Outside of that, we also have returners Miles Butler at receiver. And then in the backfield, Jaquil Middlebrooks is someone that I'm extremely high on. He's a redshirt sophomore. When you look at him on paper, and really anyone that runs the football for this Blue Raider team, it's not going to be eye-popping. You're not going to think they're much of a running threat. But Jaquil is very elusive. He's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's very quick around the edge. I'm excited to see where this guy grows. He's one of those guys that I touted early on this year that he probably won't come back to MTSU next year. So I hope that we actually optimize his playing time here. And then another name that I really like is Cameron Lacey, someone that I've been hyping up for years now. He's finally getting his opportunity to play a lot of slot. This last week wasn't his week. There's no catches, no yards. He had 2 drops actually in the first 2 drives. So I'm already behind the 8 ball as far as predicting Cam Lacey's future, but he's a guy that I really like a lot. And I always describe him as a slippery wide receiver in that slot position. So if you're a Badgers fan, that's a guy that, again, you may not see on paper right now, but he's someone that can be a game wrecker because of that ability.
Man, great stuff from Jake. We're going to take a quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back, talk defense, and some of your questions. You wanted to ask Jake, who are the 3 best players on the Middle Tennessee football roster? We're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers, but first, a quick second for our friends of the show. A quick second to say thank you for tuning in. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at Upside. Guys, are you still paying full price for gas? Like, we're still doing that in 2025. You don't have to do that anymore. With the Upside app, you can actually now start earning cash back from the gas you're going to get from the gas station anyway. You're going to do it anyway. Might as well get some cash out of it. Simply download the free Upside app from the App Store or Google Play. Simple, right? Everything's simple so far. Then you start earning cash at the pump. Use my limited time promo code football, get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already use. And it's easy, it's totally legit, and you get paid out for your daily commutes. And you can take the cash out anytime. PayPal, e-gift card, Amazon, other brands. Don't let this offer drive by. Download the free Upside app today using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and condition. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Supply House. A lot of people working on their houses, working on businesses, getting stuff done. If you need to get your crew moving, if you need parts, head over to Supply House. If you order today, you see parts on your doorstep tomorrow, because we don't have time to wait for the delivery truck and all this stuff. Get what you need right away so you can keep working on your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical projects from the most trusted brands in the business. Over 280,000 parts. Their real-time inventory and honest lead time keeps you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer support keeps your blind side covered. Right now, join the free Trademaster program today. Score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for today. Use promo code SHCollege. That's SHCollege. 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode also brought to you by the great friends over at Game Time. And I talk about it all the time. We should do more things in life. Let's get together and do more things in life. I'm talking to you out there. Game Time is the avenue to get there. Whether you're getting tickets to Camp Randall, the Cole Center, Laban, whatever it is, concerts, musicals, theaters, monster truck rallies, you're going to get pictures of the seats before you sit down at better prices, incredible inventory, the easiest ticket purchasing platform you're ever going to find, and something I personally use. Take the stress out of buying tickets with Game Time. Head on over there, download the app, create the account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, let's jump back into this with Jake. Jake, I definitely want to give you an opportunity again. Really appreciate the time. Where can people find what you're doing? Your Twitter's on the account. Obviously, you have a podcast. Probably going to be talking a lot about the game this week. Where can people find it?
Yeah, all of my socials are at Blue Raider Pod. Of course, our YouTube channel is Blue Raider Pod, and we have already previewed it from the MTSU perspective this week. So, of course, if you're looking to see how we're more in depth as far as what MTSU has going on, I highly encourage you to look at that. And of course, I'll take a second to plug our Conference USA Roundtable. Anyone happens to be coming across CUSA stuff, I co-host over there. So, plenty of G5 madness going on in our neck of the woods.
Dude, absolutely love it. Let's talk. I want to finish up on offensive scheme. What kind of scheme are we just talking about for Middle Tennessee that Badger fans are going to see here?
You said on defense or offense?
Let's finish up on offense, because we talked about maybe a lack of identity or a search for identity. What do they want that scheme to look like?
Well, 12 personnel, I think, is what we've been told. They also come out in 21 on occasions. Again, we saw a good mixture of it a lot. In years past, we've had at tight end, we've had guys that are more of that flex tight end that that can catch the ball. This group in particular, we didn't see hardly any of that this last week. I think we had Hunter Tipton, who was a Louisiana Tech transfer. He had a catch for 6 yards. So we're not really utilizing that position much like we have seen in years past. Again, if I don't necessarily have it's a multiple look. That's kind of the best way I can really describe it right now. We still haven't really found that identity.
And let's switch over to defense. Who are the key guys on defense for Middle Tennessee? Who do Badger fans need to be aware of?
According to first week, it would be DeMonte Smith, the defensive tackle with 3 down linemen. He was a guy that was just a wrecker for us, and he has the body that's made for that. He had 2.5 tackles for a loss coming along with a sack, as well as Reggie Johnson, a junior defensive end who plays a little bit outside linebacker. They kind of, again, it's 3 down linemen, but you might see some looks that have 4 down linemen. They do a good job as far as mixing up what they're doing on the defense in the box anyways. But DeMonte Smith is definitely the guy. Anthony Bynum, who has been regarded as one of the strongest, most athletic guys on the front line as well. Something about those guys in particular. Shakai Woods is another one that transferred in. But these guys have very good size, But as I talked about at the beginning of the episode, the depth isn't necessarily where it needs to be. So if you're looking at the defensive front, the starting seven are the guys that are the main players. It's just if we go down with an injury, I don't know how confident we feel. We saw some reps there late in that game, but those guys are on the front line. And I should also shout out to Parker Hughes, a guy that's been on the roster for a very long time, but he's one of the captains on this team. He had led the team in tackles this last week with 9. So he's kind of a game wrecker in and of himself, but not necessarily the greatest cover linebacker, but he's going to stick his hat in there and make a play. Because I know how much Wisconsin likes to run the football.
Yeah, I was going to lead into my next question. I'm going to tell you what the Badgers want to do, and you tell me how you feel about maybe Middle Tennessee stacking up against that. Wisconsin coming off a 17-0 win against Miami of Ohio, and a win that was methodical, but not offensively a great performance. The offensive line struggled a little bit. The starting quarterback got hurt. It is going to be the backup quarterback this week against Middle Tennessee. That's going to be Danny O'Neal. They're going to want to run the ball. All that to be said, they're going to want to lean heavily. They have a couple running backs they really like. They have some size on the interior of the line. How does Middle Tennessee hold up through 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters against what's going to be a pretty determined Badgers rushing attack?
Yeah, the way you worded that, I think, is well put, because how do they hold up in 2 quarters? I think they hold up fine, but unfortunately the game isn't 30 minutes long. Where we get into problems is that 3rd and 4th quarter, much like we experienced against Austin Peay, something that I tell everyone, the defense played well. You look at it, 34 points to Austin Peay. How good of a defense is that really? But similar to what Miami of Ohio had to experience, our offense wasn't on the field very long. When you're having to chase around an SEC caliber quarterback for 4 quarters, and in total, I think they almost got to 40 minutes, it becomes tiring. And I already talked about the lack of depth on the front end. That becomes a challenge for these guys. I think that they will do. I think that they will do well in regards to stopping the run. Again, how does that balance out going into that second half? I think at some point it's going to have to give, because I don't have enough confidence that the offense can stay on the field long enough. And you already talked about how methodical Luke Fickell likes to be, slowly moving the ball down the field. I know that you had a few drives that ended at 12, 15 plays. Like Austin Peay was getting them in chunks at least, and that could certainly wear on them come that second half.
Let me throw a couple questions. So a couple people in Discord want to throw some questions your way. Again, really appreciate the time. Very grateful for it. From Brian, Brian Shetty in the Discord. What is 3 best players on MTSU? What do you think?
Well, Nick Vadiato at quarterback has got to be the best one. Again, I'm really hoping, and I hope that he shines like we know that he's capable of this week. The other one I think is Jaquil Middlebrooks, a guy that, again, if he has the opportunity to make plays, I think he can really shine bright. But Wisconsin's defense may be the perfect combination here to take those 2 best players out of the equation. And so if you had to take anyone outside of that, I really like Najee Cox on the offensive side. And I will throw a little curveball on the defensive side. I think Parker Hughes, Alex Mitchell, if he's healthy, 2 linebackers that I think can potentially be the best players. But if I had to pick 3, and they all have to be on the offensive side, because they have to play well for us to even have a chance, it's Vadiato, Jaquil Middlebrooks, and Najee Cox.
Okay. What is the consensus from Juice Boy about games like this? And I hesitate to listen. We've all seen teams get upset. It's not like Wisconsin's a great program and a great spot right now, but how do Middle Tennessee fans kind of look at games like this typically?
Ryan, I hope you and Badger fans alike don't take offense to this, but when we saw that this game was on our schedule, we were licking our chops, because last year we had to play Ole Miss, and we consistently schedule these bye games, and so the Wisconsin is the more winnable of the bye games we've had in recent history. I mean, we've had Alabama's, we've had Missouri's, it's Wisconsin, a team that is in year 3 of Luke Fickell. They looked pedestrian last year. Maybe this is our chance because we're supposed to be better. So I think the consensus about this particular game was excitement. Now, the week 1 result has definitely thwarted that. On top of that, Wisconsin always has a good defense, and our offense was the worst it's ever looked in the Derek Mason era last week. So I would say originally very excited, but as of now, it's like, let's just come out of this healthy, because we have some more winnable non-conference games before CUSA kicks off.
Dude, I love that answer. Hell yeah. Go play a team, beat them up. Yeah, look forward to it, because you don't get that many opportunities, which leads into my next question, to go play at a place like a Camp Randall, or you mentioned some of the other teams on your schedule. Has there been any discussion from either maybe the players or fans? Are they excited to go to Camp Randall? Do you know people going up there? What is that looking like?
So some of our media members that I'm happy to share the desk with, they'll be up there. I know the student paper's going. Some guys I work with over at gomiddle.com, they'll be there as well. They're certainly excited about it. And I think from the aspect that, this is our one buy game of the year, we get to go to someplace new. We tend to play, we have this revolving door of non-con guys. Like we'll play Marshall this year, who used to be in Conference USA. Even Nevada, that's someone that we're going to have a bunch of home and homes with. Next year's Murray State. So we have a lot of these G5s or FCS schools that we play consistently, but having this new P4 that we haven't played in a while, like I said, we had Alabama, Missouri. We've actually played them numerous times within the last 15 years, but this is a whole new venue for us. Also, I don't know that they've traveled this far north in a very long time. So I think that's a cool aspect of it because it's very hot down here. I'm very jealous of what you guys got going on in Wisconsin, but they're excited. Certainly, I unfortunately can't make the trip, but it is a cool venue, and there's always something special to say, hey, I've been to that stadium before.
Yeah, I mean, don't be too excited about our weather come January, February, March. Like now is perfect. Fall is incredible, but we know what comes next after it. So don't get too jealous. Let me finish up with this, man. For this, the FanDuel line on this, I think I just saw it a couple hours ago, 28.5, I think is what FanDuel has the line on. What's the game script for Middle Tennessee for this to be a one possession game into the fourth, for Middle Tennessee to be right there? What's the game script for that to happen?
Well, it's got to be to move the football at a pace that can keep the defense off the field. I know that that's very loaded, but I think at the end of the day, if you're able just to get first downs, keep your defense on the sideline well rested, carrying the ball 3-4 times, or carrying the ball 3-4 yards at a time, that's going to be the only opportunity. Because if I don't think Wisconsin's offense, especially with the O'Neal now having to come in and take over under center, I think you have a situation where you feel like if you can just play strong defense and just keep the offense on the field, you can at least keep it under the 28.5.
Phenomenal stuff, Jake. Really do appreciate it, man. I hope you have an incredible weekend, an incredible season after this. And if you're listening to the show, go check out Blue Raider Pod. Go check out their coverage of this game leading into it. You're going to get a great new perspective of it. I highly encourage that. Jake, man, as always, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to Locked On Badgers. We'll be back tomorrow on Wisconsin, and we'll definitely talk tomorrow.